Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bears podcast. As always, I am your host, Ditka Kruse. And today I have a very special guest joining me. This is Trevor Sikkema, PFFs lead draft analyst, co-host of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. My guy, Trev, how you doing, brother?
Sky, I'm doing good, my friend. Good to be on here with you. Talk a little NFL draft, a little football, man. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, man, I'm always down to talk about the Chicago Bears and the NFL. But overall, with the rookie minicamp right around the corner for the Bears, I just want to know, how do you think the Bears came out of the 2024 NFL draft? How do you think Ryan Poles did? Just your brief analysis. And if you want to throw a grade on it, what grade would you give him?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not give him an A, right? Just from the first two picks of Caleb
Yeah.
Williams and Roman Dunze. I mean, it's exactly what this team needed. Look, they didn't overthink it with Caleb Williams. It was a calculated bet. I guess you could sit here and say to yourself, like, oh, well, if they would have taken C.J. Stroud last year, yeah, but I don't know if they would have taken C.J. Stroud. Maybe they would have taken Bryce Young. That wouldn't have looked so good. But look, I think that staying the course and making the trade for DJ Moore the way that they did and getting that first pick in this year's draft, I think was huge for them. And so I think it's an A for me. I love the Romo Dunze pick as well. I love them just absolutely keeping their foot on the gas with the offensive side of things. You traded for DJ Moore a year ago. You go out and you get Keenan Allen. Now you draft Romo Dunze. I mean, like, that's huge. And so I think that's fantastic. The other two players they got, Kiran Amegadjie and Austin Booker, I think are going to be really nice for them. You take a specialist in the first and fourth round. Okay, didn't really see that one coming, but look, Tory Taylor can really boom it and punt. So I think that this is a solid draft class, even with the punter there in the fourth round.
Yeah, man. And now I just want to go in depth more by prospect specifically. It's hard not to talk about Caleb Williams. He's had all the spotlight this whole time, but he's just getting some outrageous comparisons to the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, you name it. He's been compared to it. But I want to know, is Caleb Williams the answer at QB that the Bears have been looking for? Is he worth all the hype in your opinion?
I think he is, man. I've enjoyed so much everything that he's been in college football over the last couple of years. He truly does that really special stuff, right? I mean, okay, yeah, he's got to get a little bit better in structure. He's got to handle things a little bit better when you're on script. But, man, I was so surprised. I mean, look, you watch a guy in college football, and it's different when you're just kind of sitting back on your couch enjoying it, just like taking it in as it's coming at you. But when you really look at a guy through an NFL draft lens, you start to see a lot of okay, actually, I wish they did this instead of this. And you see a lot more of those things than you do naturally when you're just enjoying them playing the games live. And for Caleb, I thought that I was going to see, like, man, this dude who really couldn't play within structure. I thought he was going to be like, oh, okay, like the outside structure stuff is great, but everybody talks about him. He's reckless and all. Dude, when the offensive line actually blocks for him, he is an underrated on script processor. I mean, the way and the timing that he goes through progressions and how he gets through his reads and what he's looking at pre-snap, what he's looking at post-snap. I mean, like, he is way further along than I thought he was going to be for the narratives that were out there about him before we really started to kind of talk about him as a surefire number one overall pick. And so I thought that was an underrated part of his game. And look at the situation that he had at USC. Wasn't very
Not the
good,
best.
right? I mean, like, his offensive line was bad in front of him. Sure, he had playmakers like Marshawn Lloyd and Taj Boyd and Zachariah Branch and, like, some guys to throw to, great, but, like, the offensive line wasn't very good. And think about the defense, man. People worry about the decision-making that he had with all the turnovers. Caleb Williams went into every game like, if I don't score 50, we might not win. Even if I score 50, we might not win. So, to me, I love him in Chicago because Chicago was, a top 10 defense, depending on kind of what metrics you were looking at last year. I think they're going to get even better this year, or at least still, teeter around that top 10 range. And so having a defense that you can rely upon, I think is going to be something that, I don't know, it might take Caleb a little bit to get used to, actually. But I think when he does, he'll be able to play the way that you want him to play in structure and out of structure. So overall, yes, I think that he was the one who was promised for this team, the one that was going to be that top-tier number one overall quarterback and a guy who can really put this franchise in the right direction.
Man, that is music to Chicago Bears fans' ears because we have been searching for that guy for pretty much forever now. But yeah, so much talk has been on Caleb Williams, on his out of structure play. But you're right. When he does have a clean pocket, he's able to manipulate it. And his fearlessness to stay in the pocket is just something special. And Poles is dedicated to get this thing right. He's added weapons like Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Gerald Everett. And he even brought in a guy, Roma Dunze, at pick number 9 overall. And when I had Brett Lewis on, he said that Daniel Jeremiah, he had the same grade on Marvin Harrison as he did Roman Dunze. But I want to know, what is the expectation with Roman Dunze coming in, because he has to work alongside guys like Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So what are the expectations for him year one?
Something that I loved about Odunze, and I'll be transparent with this. When I went into summer scouting last year, I watched all three of these wide receivers, very clearly came away with Marvin Harrison Jr. as my top guy and
Yeah,
Malik Neighbors is my number 2 guy. And I thought that Rome was that wide receiver 3, maybe even wide receiver 4, depending on what you thought of Keon Coleman. And I was pretty high on Keon Coleman going into the last college football
same.
season.
Yeah,
So when I watched Rome, I watched him and I was like, okay, you're a good route runner for your size. Obviously, he's much more fluid. I think he's more athletic. He's just a natural athlete at his size, which is pretty rare. But you didn't really give me what I wanted from that big receiver type of feel either. Like we were talking about, like, oh, you've got good finesse game for a big receiver.
yeah,
And in 2022, I was like, okay, but you weren't aggressive enough at the catch point. Like, you weren't dominant with contested catches the way I wanted you to be. This past year, 2023, he was. He was one of the best contested catch wide receivers in the country. And so now I get to pair a really good contested catcher with somebody who has really good flexibility for his size when it comes to the routes that he can run and how he sets guys up and how he can break on those routes no matter where it is. Could be in the middle of the field, could be in the end zone. So Rome, to me, is such a well-rounded prospect now at this point that it's crazy that we got 3 wide receivers picked in the top 10, but they were all worth it. The way that I describe them is, I think that any of those 3 wide receivers, Rome included, could have been wide receiver 1 in basically every other draft class. And instead, we got to talk about him as 1, 2, 3, and somebody's got to be 1, somebody's got to be 3. And Rome obviously ends up being the third wide receiver off the board. But to me, when you look at him fitting in with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, I think that it can be a really good trio because, again, of what Rome was able to showcase as a contested catch, potentially this on the line of scrimmage X type of a receiver. And people look at Keenan Allen, right? And how Keenan Allen moves for his size. And Keenan Allen was a comp of Rome Odunze's for a while. And some people even had that until the very end. So the fact that Keenan Allen gets to, the fact that Rome Odunze now gets to play with Keenan Allen, I think could be pretty special and really unlock what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can bring to the group. I think they all bring like a different element to this offense. So it's going to be cool to see him work alongside DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Me, for one, I personally was pounding the table for Poles to add more protection for Caleb Williams because, I saw what he did at USC. I don't want to see him running for his life anymore. But he brought in an offensive tackle in the 3rd round, Kiran Amegadjie, out of Yale. I want to know, is he a project, or do you think he's somebody that can push Braxton Jones for the starting job? I mean, the only question I really have on him, that the tape looks great, but the level of competition coming from Yale, the Ivy League, how well does that translate to the next level?
That's really the question mark, right? Like, I think that this
Yeah.
guy's got a ton of talent. And I had Amegadjie ranked as my 57th overall prospect. So I believe in him,
Okay.
and I think he could be a starting offensive tackle or at worst a starting offensive guard one day at the NFL. But, I think that is he going to push Braxton Jones year 1? Probably not, right? I think it's much more
Yeah.
realistic that, you're going to get this guy in an NFL strength and conditioning program, maybe reshape the body a little bit, get him acclimated to NFL speed, even if it's just a practice level. And so that to me is how you'll fully evaluate whether or not you think he's going to be a tackle or a guard, because it's hard for me to even answer that question right now. I'd start him off at tackle because I think he
Yeah.
could do it, but I don't know if you'll get a real concrete answer for that before you really get him into his 2nd year in the NFL. I think that it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, I think very highly of the player. I think he moves really well for his size. Shoot, you watch those games at Yale, and he's just very clearly an NFL player going up against guys who are not going to play in the league. So some of
Exactly.
those reps are extremely dominant. But I think it's in his potential to start a tackle at the NFL level. And so I think that it's in the cards, to answer your question. I just don't know if it's going to be a year 1 thing with him, which is okay given the way the offensive line is currently set up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he develops because I just want that bookend tackle on the opposite side of Darnell Wright. That would be a thing of beauty for this offense. But, a prospect that has been getting a lot of love from the media and from me personally, Tory Taylor, the Aussie native. I don't know if you've been seeing on Twitter, but a lot of the Bears Nation has given him the nickname the crocodile punter because he is an Aussie native. Yeah, something that I've loved. But what do you think? Do you think it was worth a fourth round draft pick? Because me personally, I thought it was a little high, but then I turn on the tape of this guy. He just constantly pins dudes inside the 15, inside the 10. So I'm like, hey, it might be worth it. Who knows?
I think it's an overdraft just because basically I think any punter in the fourth
Yeah, in
round
the
is an
fourth.
overdraft. But coaches love to emphasize that field position battle, right? They love to emphasize being able to win that, pin teams again within the 15, within 10. Anytime you could do that, it's very advantageous because then it really limits what the offense could do because you can't really just sit that back there in the pocket. You've got to be able to first and foremost try to get out to the 20 to give yourself space. So you're not even really thinking about those big shots or anything like that. So anytime you get to switch the field like that, and he's got an absolute howitzer of a leg for a punt.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're sitting there on your own 20, you could just tell him, like, hey, Taylor, just, dial it up, kick it through the end zone, whatever. He could just go, yes, sir. All right, we're flipping the field a full 60 yards. So I think that's, well within his potential as well. So, look, a punter in the fourth round, it's early for me, but, NFL teams do some, I don't want to say funky, just like they gravitate towards some of these special teams guys that can really help them out in that third phase of the game. So I get it.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be very exciting to see. I can't wait to see if the leg lives up to the hype. But in the fifth round, the Bears did trade up. And another piece that has been missing on this team has been an edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. Like I said, Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears traded up in the fifth round to get Austin Booker out of Kansas. And when I turn on the tape, this guy at the Senior Bowl, it looks like he can rush the passer from what I've seen. But from what you've seen, what can we expect going forward? Is he just a depth piece? Is he some guy that can maybe develop into a starter down the line?
Yeah, I think it's in the cards. Now, the reason why I had him ranked as more of like a third round pick, and look, they get him in the fifth round. I think that's great value. I even thought I was kind of like lower ish on Austin Booker, but get him in the fifth round is great. I think he has the frame to be able to develop. I just think that throughout the draft class, the reason why he didn't end up going on day 2 is because you saw him put on weight very quickly throughout the draft season, and he wasn't really ready for it, right? His body just wasn't ready for it. It needs to be much more of a gradual thing for him because I think he played this season probably somewhere around like 230 pounds. And that'd be, first percentile for an edge rusher. I mean, that's low. No edge rusher plays at 230 pounds, even the lighter speed rushers. So, he comes up to the 240s at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he played well. I thought there were some really nice reps from him at the Senior Bowl. And then he goes to the Combine and tries to still test at 240, the low 240s, and all of his numbers were much worse than I feel like a lot of people thought that they were going to be. So that tells you, all right, it needs to be a little bit more gradual for him. So I wonder if this upcoming year for him, a little bit like Kiran Amegadjie, is kind of like you're treating it like a redshirt year, right? You're getting this guy in the program. You're getting him with a good strength and conditioning program to gain a little bit of weight, get stronger, maintain that athleticism. And then year 2, year 3, you're really hitting the ground running with him. He could be that starting outside linebacker type of speed rusher for you. So that's kind of the way that I look at Austin Booker. It's going to take a little bit of a development for him. And that was always going to be the case anyways, right? 1-year starter, redshirt sophomore, really young player. So just because he's not ready to, I don't think he's ready to really contribute year 1, doesn't mean that the 5th rounder can't eventually become a really nice player for them on the defensive line.
Yeah, and adding another piece to the defensive line on this ascending defense would be a sight to see. But there has been a long-lasting joke as far as the Chicago Bears. As you know, they've never had a passer thrown for 4,000 yards or 30 touchdowns. I just want to know, dude, it is. I honestly still, I remember the first time I heard that stat, one of my friends was telling me, I thought he was joking. I couldn't believe it. I Googled it and I just was mind blown. I was like, this cannot be real.
Years alone, I thought he would have just ripped it for 4K, at some point.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I still can't believe it, to be honest. But I just want to know, what are some realistic stat projections for Caleb in year 1? Because you do the math, he only has to throw for 236 yards a game to reach 4,000. That doesn't seem too crazy, but I just want to know, what are some realistic expectations we can expect year 1?
Yeah, I think that something around a little over 4,000 yards is definitely realistic for him. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire. I don't think it's going to be like 5,000 yards or anything like 4,800, something like that. But I would say, anywhere from 3,800 to like 4,300, I think is a really good 500-yard range for him to be able to hit. I'd love for him to get over 4K so you guys could get, that off of your back of having a
For
4,000
real.
yard
Need it.
quarterback there. But, again, like I think for the passing offense that he's going to be in, for the wide receivers that he's going to throw to, also
Yeah.
realistic to think, okay, like any it kind of depends, but anywhere from like 25 to 33 touchdowns. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'm pulling that number out of my butt, but like, I just think that that's kind of like realistic. If he's going to throw anywhere near 4,000 yards, I think he's got the opportunity to throw that many touchdowns as well. So, that would be over 30 touchdowns, of course, averaging like what, 1.8 passing touchdowns a game. I think that's realistic for him. But yeah, anywhere from like mid to high 20s to if you having a really good season, the low 30s, I think that's realistic for Caleb.
Yeah, man. And this is the most excited I've been in a long time to watch this Bears team. I
You
cannot
should
wait
be,
to see
man.
how
You
things
should be.
unfold. Yeah,
It's a fun team. It's a really fun team.
dude, I am stoked, man. I cannot wait. But hey, man, I know you're a busy guy, Trevor. I just want to thank you for hopping on here and talking balls. This once again, Trevor Sikkema, PFF lead draft analyst, co-host of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. Go follow my guy. But thank you, Trevor. I really appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Cool, man. No, I hope that I didn't